Okay, Chris speaks back here today with Brandon Mosley for our BCS State of Alabama podcast, and we have our first returning guest that's a candidate with us today, running for your Republican nomination for U.S. Senate, Rodney Walker. Rodney, what's going on, man?
Hey, good morning, Chris. Everything's going good. The campaign's going great. We're just working really hard every day. Today starts the our event at the Talladega Super Speedway. We'll be hosting events there today, tomorrow, and Sunday.
Okay, so I remember a few weeks ago there was a poll that came out, and for most people, they probably wouldn't pay attention to this. You came in at 1%, which was eye-opening to me. I mean, I think non-political people would just say 1%, but remember back in 2006, there was a poll that came out with lieutenant governor's race and had George Wallace Jr. at 55%. And the only person that was close to him wasn't even registered at 1% was Luther Strange. And we know that he went on to win the Republican nomination that next year. What does this mean to your campaign that you're got a is ranked?
Well, Chris, we lost you there, but
Oh, sorry, I'm back. Oh, go ahead.
it means a lot to our campaign. I'd like to list a couple of details about the survey. It was done 10 days after we announced in Anniston. It was done on August 24th. We announced August the 14th. It was a poll of 600 people, and my campaign staff was super stoked about it because of the fact that we had 1% was just basically cultivated efforts of people that wound up on that poll that knew our name. At this time, though, and I'm sure we'll speak about it in a minute, but we're really doing a lot of things to get our name out there more. So we was very proud, even though, like you said, from the outside looking in, 1% doesn't sound like much, but it was a whole lot for an outside person that's not involved in politics at this time.
Yeah, I remember the last time we had an open Senate seat, there was polling that had Mo Brooks in charge and Mike Durant and then Katie Britt. At one time or another, all three of them led in the polls. It looked conclusively like Mo Brooks was going to steamroll the competition when it all began. And, there was a point at which he was a distant third. But, Mike Durant at one point looked like, oh yeah, the guy from the Black Hawk Down movie was going to be the senator, and then he wasn't. Yeah, we're 6 months or 7 months out. It's hard to take a lot of credence in the polls before people even putting yard signs out, much less appearing on television and doing interviews and podcasts.
And Brandon, you're speaking about that. I'd like to also add that it depends on also who pays for the poll. Is it
Yeah.
a legitimate news source that pays for it? Is it a candidate that pays for it? Or where did who paid for the poll, and did they sway the vote one way or another? And then you spoke about yard signs. We've already got over 1,000 yard signs out scattered across the state of Alabama in people's yards. We've got 4x8 signs out in strategic places at businesses across the state. And we've also, we're working on putting up 60 billboards at this time. So they're strategically placed all across the state. And then we've spent time and we've got our commercials filmed that'll be hitting TV media very soon. And as you know, we're doing banner ads and different things. We're working very hard to get people to know the businessman and the farmer in this race.
So is that how you're planning to capitalize on that? Is to start running TV and radio commercials soon?
Well, at this, we want to kind of conserve our money as much as we can because, we're running, on a grassroots effort to do our campaign, but we do have strategic TV commercials that'll be coming out, and mostly a lot of those will be segmented, towards the people who voted in 2024 election and so forth.
I know in the last financial report, it sort of stunned those of us in the political deal because Steve Marshall got out there early and was the early fundraiser. And I mean, he got absolutely devastated in that second report by Barry Moore, who outraised him by like 100,000. Does that kind of show that we sort of have weak support at the top in this race thus far?
Brandon, I still believe with all of my heart that people are tired of career politicians, and they're also tired of trial lawyers. I think that people are ready for a change. I think that people want to see business people go to Washington. I think they want to see business people go to Montgomery, and so it is fascinating that changed around. And then it's quite funny how that people sometimes uh, claim the race is won by the person who has the most money in their account. And as you know, you might be going to mention it in a minute, but we also donated $350,000 of our own money to the campaign um, at this point.
Um, Rodney, I know in years past, a lot of candidates, try to live and die in Jefferson County. I think now, um, 20% of your voters are still in Jefferson and Shelby, and I think 65% of your voters come from the statewide up. But now we've seen like Baldwin and Montgomery become more pivotal. Do you plan on spending much time in South?
Huntsville has become the biggie.
You think over Baldwin in Mobile?
So to answer both questions there, yes, we're planning on spending a lot of time. We've already spent time in Baldwin County. We've already spent time in Mobile County. We're working very hard. We've already spoke at a couple of events in both counties. We're also set up to go back and speak to the Republican Party at different dates. We have a full calendar. Right now, our calendar is pretty full all the way through December, and it has other things after the first of the year too. Huntsville, we have a lot of friends in Huntsville. We're doing meet and greets in that area and also over in Florence. I'd like to announce, that we also have campaign offices now located in Delta, Alabama, here at the farm. We have one in Montgomery, Alabama. We have one in Mobile on Water Street. And then we have also one in Birmingham at Chase Towers. And then we have another one in Huntsville. So we're spreading out our offices so that we'll be able to let people know that we're available to meet with them and just working with our grassroots people.
Um, Ronnie, getting on with issues. We saw where President Trump this week negotiated a peace treaty or a peace agreement, sort of armistice deal with whoever is running Hamas at this point, because it seems like Israel kills off a Hamas leader every month, and Israel. Are you optimistic that we could finally move on and let both of those, I don't want to call Gaza a country, but whatever Gaza is, let Gaza try to get economically prosperous or at least functional as a society, and Israel move on without us constantly having to get back into, I mean, if we have to help Israel, we have to help Israel. But I mean, it is draining on us and them for, the kind of just constant, um, you know,
So, yes,
tit for
sir.
tat battles have been going on for years now.
I believe that we've just accomplished one of the best and greatest peace agreements in modern time. I mean, to get those two countries in that region to stop fighting is amazing. Um, and I'm very, very proud of President Trump that he was able to do that. I would like to go on and answer the other part of your question. I don't believe that we'll just be able to go away and leave them alone. I believe that we'll have to have a presence. Some people would say, I think that we'll have to kind of police the area, if you will, to make sure that both people stay in alignment with the peace agreement. But we will not need as many boots on the ground. We will not have to be involved in fighting or constant rescue efforts.
I think the government's now in day 16 or 17 or something like that of shutdown. Republicans are blaming Democrats. Democrats are blaming Republicans. Is there somebody to blame, or is all of Washington to blame for this mess that's going on?
Well, um, I'm going to answer it this way. I believe that we all really need to come back to the table. Yes, the Democrats are to blame because they will not come to the table. There is a CR on the table, and it's been on the table for months. I understand their position that they want to work with and get Obamacare stretched out, but we have time to do that. The most important thing is that we have all of our government employees, whether they're troops or whether they're at the air traffic control, um, the boots on the ground people, they need to be getting a paycheck because those people aren't able to make their car payments, their house payments, they got to buy groceries. They have to live just like everyone else, and they're counting on their check to come in. So, I think that all of us need to get something hashed out, but if the Democrats won't come to the table to do that, um, we can't make it happen. That's my answer for that.
I know it's a major deal if you're a government contractor, I mean, because I don't know when they're going to get paid, or a government employee. But for those of us who are not in or working daily with the federal government, I mean, me, I'm not really feeling the shutdown. Rodney, do you think the average American that's not employed by the government or working with the government as a contractor is really noticing all that much different from the shutdown?
So that's the thing is I think that the average American probably doesn't really realize how it is hurting the people who are employed. I mean, my brother-in-law works for a government contractor, and they've been told that they will not get paid. He's used up all his vacation time now, and so they will not get any back pay or anything like that. Again, as far as the contracting firm or so forth, that are scattered across, the big companies will be okay because they're going to get their money because it's in their contract. The trouble is that the little man, the people that are working on all these jobs, whether it's the troops, like I said, or the people in air traffic control, or the people that makes the world go round every day, that's the people that's hurting. My friends that work at the USDA office, they've got kids in college and so forth. They've got bills to pay. They don't have money stacked up, to pay all this type of thing for a government shutdown. They're counting on their check just like my employees are counting on theirs. My employees have to make sure every week they get a check.
Rodney, I got a tough question for you, and I don't know if you know the answer to this. I mean, I certainly don't know how many people would, but we've seen, I think, Doge save like $200 billion or something a year, and then I think we've got like 200 billion a year, or 200 billion came in through tariffs. Do you know why we're still having to borrow money um, to keep the government going?
Chris,
Or
you're
you know what?
absolutely right. I wish I did know the answer to that, and I've spoke on that. And a big thing from being a businessman is I think we ought to be able to balance the budget. Of course, now we got all this windfall of money coming in from all those things, but I don't understand where the money went. And nobody has the government's not told us where the money's going to. So, I mean, was all of it in vain, or is it still in vain, or whatever? I mean, we're still taking in billions of dollars off the tariffs each month, and that type of thing. I don't know where the money's going, but it needs to be going to pay the national debt off so that my grandkids don't have to worry about it.
Ronnie, is it even realistic to think the national debt will ever be paid off? I mean, we're like 1.5 trillion being spent a year in the deficit. I mean, just getting to where we're not adding to the deficit is going to take either, another 1.5 trillion in cuts or 1.5 trillion in increased income. And to do it will probably take something of both, where the economy grows and tax revenue grows that way,
Well,
while
to
you don't cut some things like Obamacare subsidies.
to start, we have to start because if we don't, it's just getting larger and larger and larger. But I don't have a plan right here in front of me right today. I can have one put together and that type of thing. But if we started balancing the budget and our economy is increasing. We're bringing all this manufacturing back and we're creating new jobs and we're increasing the size of our economy. If we stayed within our budget and took the extra money and paid on the debt, we would get it paid down. It's going to take a while to pay it down, but if we don't start soon, I mean, we're just going further and further down the road, and it's never going to get paid off if if the government just keeps printing money.
Rodney, if where would you think we start looking at cutting our budget at?
Um, I think Doge drove into that a whole lot. The only thing is, we just discussed that a minute ago, is where did the money go or where is it going and that type of thing. There's a lot more programs. I mean, um, you don't hear anything from Doge right this minute. I mean, they kind of got down to the Department of Education. Um, Now, don't take me wrong. I'm not saying that we need any cuts in the Department of Defense, but we need to look at all the other departments that we didn't get to and see what's going there and make sure that there's not wasteful spending. Because I know for a long time, if the budget come to you and the government works off of a budget up to September the 30th. So for a long time, and I believe it still happens today, if you was getting $1 million through your budget, if you didn't spend it, you'd lose it. Well, everybody's kind of they're so scared if they don't spend it, they won't get it the next year. Well, I believe there ought to be some kind of incentive or whatever for each division. If they are able to save money, there might be some type of incentive inside that division to to make that worthwhile for them. You understand what I'm saying? Like if there's a bonus or any type of a benefit for people to save money, then they would work harder to do that.
Alrighty, recently we've had Russian drones flying inside of NATO airspace. We've had some Russian jets cross into NATO airspace. NATO has passed you know, a change of order to the frontline troops that, if a Russian jet flies into NATO airspace, you are authorized to shoot it down. Are you concerned that when the Ukraine-Russia peace negotiations just blew up, that Russia, is sort of in a stalemate in Ukraine to try to get bargaining, to increase their bargaining stance, may cross into Poland or Latvia or, Romania or someplace in order to um, make a larger war and hoping of getting a better deal?
I would certainly hope not. And I would like to bring up one point that I do think about that. Some people may think I'm crazy, but as Russia went into Ukraine, Ukraine is a very small country. You would think that Russia would have the capabilities of completely obliterating them and going right on in. I saw a lot of pictures where Russian tanks were running out of fuel. They couldn't get fuel there to them. Farmers in Ukraine was dragging tanks around with their tractors and different things like that. Um, I don't think that Russia is really the military power that they once was. Now, I believe if they're aligned with their allies, um, China and so forth, that could possibly change and they could get more funding and so forth. But I just don't think that Russia is really the superpower, and I think that they'd be better off not to be going into Poland and other countries because, you know, um, you know how when a bully keeps on and then several people just go and whoop the bully, that could take effect in Europe.
Rodney, President Trump's getting some criticism from some members of his own party now, saying these strikes on drug dealers out in the international waters is a war crime. What do you think about the president's strikes against them?
I think they all ought to be shot and blow the boats up. They know not to be bringing drugs over here in America. Chris, that's one of the biggest problems that we have, and we don't even realize how bad that is. But as you um, travel around and different and visit with different groups and so forth. Um, as you watch the movie, um, if you saw it, uh, the Alabama Solution, our prisons are full of drugs, our streets are full of drugs. I mean, you know, me and you, perhaps nobody comes up and tries to sell us drugs. But as I look around at so many people, that have to fight that battle every day, um, we've got to get drugs off our streets. We've got to continue to help people to do that. And as I travel around the state, it's a very eye-opening experience that most people don't really realize that's going on. But I promise you this, it affects every family in this state.
Ronnie, on that topic, how much productivity do you think we probably lose here in the state of Alabama from people either are at work and they're impaired when they show up, if they show up, and people who are so impaired by drugs that, they're living on the streets or, in mama's basement, strung out and can't participate in the economy, or young people who, instead of be joining the workforce, they're out there selling drugs and fighting each other over drug selling space and so forth. It just seems like it's an enormous drain on
I
just
would,
everything.
I would agree with you, Brandon, that it is an enormous drain. I would like to point out some statistics that was brought to my attention a few days ago. We talk about our unemployment rates being so low. They try to keep those, in the 3 or 4% range. But here's a very interesting statistic. In Alabama, there's only 57% of the people that are employed. Um, they have removed 43% of the people from our workforce, as you would say. That's kind of an alarming amount of people. As we drive up and down the road every day and we see all these people out, um, almost half of the people are not a part of our workforce, and that's a big deal. And to further answer your question, like most of the people that do go to their job are not, well, they're certainly not homeless and they're not drug addicts because most people are tested and so forth. So I don't know if it's impairing the workforce that we have in place, but there are a whole lot more bodies um, that need to be helped so that they could go to work and become an integral part of our society and become tax-paying citizens too.
Yeah, our offices are out here in Montgomery. We're 2 blocks away from the shooting. And the amount of people that are adult and, I'm not talking like 80-year-olds, I'm talking people that should be in the prime of their working lives in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, just wandering up and down the street, sometimes panhandling, sometimes selling drugs. It's just bizarre.
Yes, sir. And I agree with you 100%. Um, the that number that I just give you, and I want to put it back to how many hundreds of thousands of people that is, but I don't have that exact number. But it's very alarming that 43% of grown human beings, not disabled or anything, but 43% of the Alabama people that are well uh, bodied uh, Americans could be working, but they're not. And they're not included on our unemployment rolls because, like you said, they're either homeless or they're not looking for work or they're not hopefully not drawing unemployment.
No, they're
Rodney, what do you think
you,
about the president sending a National Guard to cities?
Um, Chris, I think that was fine in Washington, D.C. because that's our United States capital. and I believe that crime was out of control. Washington, D.C. is not really considered a state or anything of that nature, and there are all of our people that we send to Washington to serve us every day, and those people needed protecting and so forth. Um, I don't believe that we need the National Guard in Alabama. Um, my dad was a member of the National Guard. He's been to Germany. He's been to South America. Um, you know, to help those countries in the past do things. Um, Chris, I guess that you know, but I served 8 years with our sheriff's department as the pilot, and also trained as a sniper and so forth. And I've been out on drug raids, and I've done a lot of things behind the scenes. But here's the thing: is we have a very good law enforcement community, and those people work very hard every day in the state of Alabama. Now we have U.S. Marshals here. We have ALEA that's directed by Hal Taylor. We have a wonderful group of people that work for the state troopers. We have very good sheriffs. We have very good sheriff's departments, deputies. We have very good police officers. Um, those people are very much capable of taking care of our streets. The only thing is, I want to point out that Obama generation and on into Biden was defund the police. Now, if you defund the police, how do you expect them to have money to protect our streets and so forth? And so, you know, um, I don't think we need the National Guard. I think that makes people scared, and I certainly don't want to talk about the topic of martial law. I really think that we need to rely on our law enforcement people that we have in place, unless we're in a community that murder and drugs are just completely running rampant. I believe we need to rely on our police to take care of that. In Montgomery, there's been 2 suspects arrested already within at least, I believe it's been 1 week since that shooting. Um, I tell you what, it's people just really need to think about if they could go back to fighting with their fist instead of just pulling out a gun and start shooting, it'd be a wonderful place. But like at the Montgomery shooting, you know, you had those victims. The police chief come out and said that 2 of the other people that was there had weapons on them. There's a lot of people that had weapons that night, not just the shooters.
Yeah, I think they've arrested another shooter since then. We're up to 3 now.
Okay.
3?
And I
Okay.
think there's more than 3 that actually were shooting. Apparently, some people saw people they didn't like across the street. My reporter instincts want to say gangs saw other gang members, but I mean, again, I've not been told that per se by the police, but that's what it sounds like. So people on this street saw people on the other sidewalk, and everybody pulled their weapons and opened up.
And so, you know, you may think this is a far-fetched idea, but you know, we put out a press release on that, and we think I believe, and my wife believes that it starts at home. It starts you know, way before people are adult age. You know, there has to be things to do. We got to put God back in schools. We got to put God back in homes and that type of thing. We got to work to help people understand that you can talk about your problems without pulling out a gun and shooting each other. And we can't be scared of the word to say gangs, because um, gangs are basically a clique or a group or whatever. But that's what gives that child a sense of belonging. That gang takes that person in and gives them a sense of belonging. If we had other things that they could be doing instead of down at the running with the gang and shooting at each other, it would be a lot better. We just got to get it back into our society where we learn that we don't have to kill each other, um, or we don't have to be far left or far right. We've got to be able to find unity and work together, all the way from babies to grandparents.
Let me ask you this earlier. This has to back to do with the campaign again. We've got multiple candidates in it. I mean, it's looking like Congressman Brooks may get in this race again. With so many candidates, do you expect this race is going to turn dirty?
I mean, we're not planning on being dirty. That's all I can probably say about that. I'm not going to say that I have a feeling that it probably will. I hope that Mo Brooks doesn't get in the race. I think that we have good qualified candidates in the race and so forth. But of course, I think I'm the best candidate in the race, and but we're certainly not planning on doing any mudslinging. It's not our way.
Getting on to more of a localized issue, we had a really wet spring and a really wet early summer. Anybody who's trying to get hay out in June, that they realized the difficulty of that. Then it turned dry in August, and the fall has been pretty dry, most of the state. Lake Purdy in Birmingham, if you've been by there, with the main water reservoir for not just Birmingham, but that whole metroplex, it's pretty dry. Um, is there a need for another water source, whether it's another reservoir or tap the Coosa and build a water line all the way out from the Coosa back into Birmingham in order for that region, not just Birmingham, but Shelby County and St. Clair County to continue to grow? Or is that just an issue that the federal government and the state government really can't help with?
So, Brandon, I have really good news on that subject. I'm 56 years old, so I've seen a lot of things over my lifetime, but they're actually, when I was in my 20s, there is a 36-inch ductile iron line that goes from the Coosa River, right there at Chillisburg, where the Kimberly-Clark plant was, all the way into Birmingham. So they can actually pump water out of the Coosa River into their water filtration system in Birmingham. So that's already been taken care of years ago.
Don't worry about that.
Did I lose you guys?
No,
Oh,
I'm
no,
still here.
I
I can
thought
see you.
yeah, I didn't know you finished with that statement. Let's see. I think that's all I've got, Brandon, unless you got some other questions for him.
Um, I'm still kind of interested in what do you think on Charlie Kirk? We've just, it just seems like, I mean, I don't want to say it was like watching one of the prophets die, for those people in the first century that experienced that, or, I mean, it's like was like he was there and I've met him before. And of course, he was a Facebook friend, so you were constantly getting stuff from him. Then all of a sudden, him to die as suddenly as he was, how did that impact you? It just feels weird to me.
Well, Brandon, it's touched me. It's touched, we have three sons, 35, 28, and 22. And so, especially our middle son, it's really affected and touched him, and death is always something um, that's kind of hard to get over. I, um, I don't know exactly about putting it into words. Very devastated about Charlie Clerk's passing. I think that he was a wonderful man. And, like you said, I don't know if prophet is the word for that, but he certainly was not as scared to stand up for what he believed in and what we believe in, as God-fearing and Christian saved people. Um, I love the way that he would go about giving everybody the opportunity to ask questions and then debate them. And if someone was arguing back and forth, he would give them the opportunity to do that. Um, Me and my wife Stacy attended a tribute to him that was at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and we'll be going to another tribute to him that's going to be held in just a couple of weeks in Auburn. So, I mean, it has touched us. I would think it would be like easy to say it'd be like a family member passing away or something. But I, I think his wife is a very upstanding young lady to stand up and try and take this movement forward. Um, and and I honestly believe that that we're in a different generation of young people where that they believe in God, and that we're seeing very positive results from the kids right now that are in elementary and high school, and it's a different generation now. I did not say there was anything wrong with the generation that had just passed. I just said that the kids now that are coming through school at this time um, are more centered around a Christian-like environment. And I believe that our country was founded on God, and I believe um, that we should always stand up for what's right, and we know that is right.
That's all I have, unless there's something you'd like to add, Rodney.
I would like to say thank you for letting me be on this program again today. I appreciate both you, Brandon, and Chris. Um, I think our campaign is going very well. Um, Last night we spoke in Clanton, Alabama, and everyone knew my name before I had to introduce myself. It's very humbling when you get out of your vehicle and everybody says, "Hello, Rodney," and that type of thing. Um, it, it, this is a true grassroots movement. Um, from the voters instead of, we'll say, the grass tops. We're still working very much in the grassroots. I love people, and I feel like that I can talk to anyone, no matter if it's a child or if it's President Trump or anyone else in the world. Um, I know I talk a little slower, but I talk where people can hear me and understand what I have to say. I'm very proud. I'm very excited to be your next United States Senator. And any way that I can help anyone, I ask that they please give me a call.
Thanks, Rodney. I'll get this loaded up to YouTube in just a bit.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you so much for being on, Rodney.
Bye-bye.
Well, you should be able to make your appointment on time, Christopher.
Yeah, I'm headed up there right now. I'm just standing outside at the VA, so I'll what time? That other one's at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, 1 o'clock.
Okay. All right. I'll talk to you in a bit.
Okay.
Bye bye.